Shemai friendy and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Anwin for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And I'm continuing in the Balayong Zoo today with a Southeast Asia animal from the pack, and we're going to be doing the Proboscis Monkey. And they actually really like swimming, so I wanted to do a nice habitat with lots of water in it, and I thought a river would be really good for them. They also live by mangrove forests, but we've already got one of those in this zoo for the tapirs. So I thought I'd do a nice little tropical river. And I didn't want this river to look too man-made, so I went in after I had cut out the shape of the river with the terrain shaping tools. I went in and roughened it all up because like riverbeds aren't all flat, are they? So I wanted it to have a little bit more dimension to it. I was inspired by the Hobbiton Zoo for the bottom of this little river here. I'll put a link to my tour of that up in the iCards. That was very beautifully decorated under the water, and I was very inspired by that, so I wanted to add in extra details in the river too, because I know the proboscis will be swimming in this river quite a lot. So I used the like pebble looking rocks for the bottom of the river, and so I clustered them in the dents of the terrain, kind of like they had fallen in and kind of got trapped in the like lower parts of the terrain, and added in some underwater aquatic plants as well, just to give that extra liveliness of the river, so it's not just, you know, a big dirt dent with some water in it. Couldn't really do this when I was doing the aquatic zoo so much because I needed the terrain to be quite flat to be able to put the pathways under the water. So it's nice to kind of play around with some underwater detailing without having to worry about having to put a pathway in it. And for this part, I wanted to make a little waterfall, so the habitat didn't look like it just had a river coming out of nowhere. I guess this could be like a man-made waterfall, and that's kind of allowing the water to come in and fill up the river a little bit. I don't know how it would work in real zoos, and I just really love waterfalls. So I enjoy making them in Planet Zoo and adding those extra little details down. Something soothing about the sound of water flowing like down a waterfall or something. It's very soothing. And I also used the murky water effects, not the like regular water effects, to try and tie it in a little bit with the more murky river water. And I wanted to make this like a tropical rainforest river, but not make it super similar to the one that I had built for the giant otters in my last zoo. So I'm still using the strangler fig trees because they're just so pretty, but I tried not to make it super similar to what I'd already done. I had a different kind of concept for this habitat than for the otters one, but the kind of concept I had in mind was to teach the guests a little bit more about deforestation. This is like a tropical rainforest with like a river in the middle, but I wanted to show a little bit more of what we as humans are doing to these animals. So I wanted half of the habitat to look a little bit more natural, and then the other half where I'm building now to be like a man-made type of environment where like the humans have kind of taken over the rainforest and taken some of the natural land where the proboscis monkeys would have been living and climbing trees and stuff. So I wanted to make a rope bridge to cross the river. I'm guessing like the proboscis monkeys wouldn't have needed a bridge at all, like they can just swim the river, but I wanted something to kind of show that humans have been there. So I had a look at some rope bridges and I was a little unsure about how I was gonna make this. So I just played around with it. I've used the grid of the pathways again to try and make it evenly spaced because things don't click into grids like walls do. And one reference picture that I'd found on Google Images had like a lattice crisscross pattern on the bridge itself, so I wanted to do something similar to that. And the length of the ropes weren't that great for making the lattice shape, but I think it's effective in the end. So I started off with like one module of it. I grouped a little chunk together and then found it easier to just duplicate those groups across. This starts off as like a straight bridge, but I didn't want it to be a straight across bridge. I wanted it to be slightly curved. So I lowered the middle group down as far as I wanted it to lower, and then angled the other grouped pieces of the bridge to try and smoothly curve it downwards so it looks a little bit more natural, like it had sort of gravity was taken over and it was curving downwards. It's a lot easier having them in these groups so I don't have to select every part of the bridge while I'm trying to angle it around and curve it nicely. And I was trying to find a little object that could be like a little plank of wood that was nailing the rope supports on either side of the ground down into the ropes. Does that make sense? I always question myself. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And then when I say it, I'm like, yeah, it's just how the rope would be pinned into the ground. And I kept having to look back at some reference photos because I wasn't really sure what I was missing. I kept looking at it and I was like, how does this hold up? And I realized it couldn't hold itself up without some actual wooden supports on either side as well. It's like, how does all of this rope just hold on? It needs something solid. Like, rope isn't solid. And these little supports probably help a lot in that. So I added those in. The Africa style of building was super helpful with these sorts of things. I really liked using some of these for this rope bridge. And I really love the shadows that this little rope bridge creates in the water. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the shadows. And the proboscis can actually climb across this no problem. I do have some clips right at the end of them exploring their new habitat. And then I wanted to fill in some gaps between the trees with some nice greenery, make this look like a nice lush rainforest filled with lots of different plant life. I wanted the side where the nature is away from the man-made side to be very dense with plants, so it looks like it's full of life. I wanted this to be quite a difference between where the rope bridge is and past the rope bridge, and then on the other side of the rope bridge be full of plant life, and where the proboscis would mainly stay and like live their lives. I want them to kind of stay more away from the rope bridge, even though they can climb it. And I'm really trying to think of where my guests will be around the habitats as well, and I kind of forgot that I had a pathway going along the other side of the river as well, so this pathway will see the waterfall quite nicely, but there wasn't enough plant life on that side either. And I don't know what it is. I will select what I need for the animals to be happy with the plants, but I can get so focused in on looking for one thing that I completely miss like half of the plants that I really like using in these habitats. I thought I didn't have a lot of a variation, but but I was so focused on looking for one thing that I'd missed so many that I really like using. This is probably the most zoo-y part of this habitat, is the climbing equipment. I wanted to make something that they could climb around on this forage box, so the forage box thing wasn't as kind of redundant and just a big square, so I wanted to just use those nice like wood logs and make like a climbing thing / shelter for them with the forage box, and I quite like this shape. And I'm still kind of a little bit traumatized from building the tree house for the binturong. I really did not want to build more climbing things. I think I've just settled on the fact that I'm just not really that skilled in building climbing things. So I thought instead I would use some of the blueprint and kind of try to tie them all in together with my forage shelter. I don't know. I wanted to tie them all in together so the proboscis could kind of climb all along everything and basically play floor is lava, not have to like go onto the floor at all. They could make their way from one piece of climbing equipment to the other and not actually have to touch the floor. I thought that would be a little bit of fun. The day I'm recording this, the next Sims 4 game pack trailer has just been released. It's the Dream Home Designer, I think that's what it's called. It looks kind of interesting. You know me, I am a builder through and through, so it's a little bit interesting. I haven't been interested in a pack in a long time, hence why I've been playing this game so much. I've not been interested in playing The Sims for a long while now, so this is the first thing that's caught my eye in months. I haven't played the game in months, so yeah, I don't know though. I don't know whether I even want to go back to playing The Sims on YouTube. I think I've made a nice little Planet Zoo community now, but it does seem to look like a more building oriented pack, so I'm kind of interested. If you have seen like the trailer or you play The Sims 2, as in TOO, not TWO, let me know whether you'd be interested in seeing me do a little playthrough of this game pack. It wouldn't be like a long series and I would still carry on building in Planet Zoo. And what I'm building at the moment is a nice little shelter for the proboscis, and I wanted to tie in the pathway around the habitat into the shelter, so the roof of the shelter lines up with the bottom of the pathway, so the guests should be able to stand by the pathway and see the proboscis basically eye to eye with them. Face to face with them, whatever, so the proboscis can stand on top of the shelter. They can climb on top but not escape, thankfully, and then the guests can see them up close and personal like that, and while they sit and chill on top of their shelter, or they can hide away from the guests underneath the shelter. And for the last little bit of this habitat, I wanted to add in some more signs that humans have come and taken over this forest. So I've added in a few little tents. I didn't even know we had tents in this game. There's just certain things that I'm just so impressed by. I'm just impressed that I can actually find these things. I'm just like, oh, every time I build something slightly different, I find something new in this game. It's always fun. So I wanted to make like a little campsite, and I found this little fire. I think again this is from the African style, and I wanted to make like a little fire pit, so I merged lots of them together to make a little circle and put some little rocks around it to make it look like a, you know, natural fire pit. I think the tents really show that humans have taken over this part of the forest, and that's why there's not so many plants I just wanted to show a little bit more of like a deforestation kind of storyline with this habitat. I don't think I started with that, but I just wanted more of an explanation of why the rope bridge was there. And I think the tents just shout like, people are here. And the little fire pit thing does spit out some sparks and a little bit of fieriness, but I also added in a little bit of smoke as well to show that it was fire there. Now I found that smoke effect. But yeah, it's like a proper little campsite. It's cute if you didn't really think of the story that whoever's in this campsite has kind of destroyed the monkey's home. It's not very nice really, but that's why I've only really made it a little bit of the habitat. As you noticed, I haven't really put any of the food or enrichment toys up in that area as well. I'd rather the proboscis kind of avoid that area if they can. And last but not least, adding in some education boards. The barriers are too high for an animal talk point in this habitat, so we're not doing that at all. But I do have a nice little sign for the education board, and this one's just so cute. I had it looking like the proboscis and his little baby is sort of sitting on the floor of the pathway instead of being like floating. And yeah, I won't show you absolutely everything because it gets super repetitive in this. I just like to show that each habitat has an individual education board. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we get to see the proboscis exploring their lovely habitat and having a lovely time around the jungle area. This is kind of how I pictured them going around the habitat, but they do kind of climb on the bridge a little odd. I have checked, they can walk across the bridge, they just don't. They kind of climb up on the ropes and they don't walk along the little planks of wood how I would have actually expected them to, but that's fine. That's usually what happens with Planet Zoo animals. You think they're going to do one thing and they just glitch their way across and it just happens. But yeah, I really like this habitat. I think it's got an important message in it as well. Deforestation is not a good thing for taking away these animals' natural habitats, and zoos have a big part of teaching people about that. So it's really nice to have like a lesson in the habitat itself as well. And I just enjoyed the concept of it, having like a really lush and full rainforest and then having this dry kind of sad dead looking part of the rainforest where the humans have kind of taken over, and I just wanted to see whether I could make something look like a rope bridge, and I think it works out really nicely and the shadows are just super pretty on the water. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it off there. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate everyone's comments. It does really brighten my day seeing that notification. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!